Well, and as both of you mentioned, both during our budget segment, and of course, it has a lot to do with the pandemic um, effects here in Arlington, and that's food security. Now, this issue has been made even more prominent this past year because of the pandemic, and we have some interesting news to share with the formation of a new food security task force. Matt, I know this issue is one that is very near and dear to your heart, so we're going to kick it off with you. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, Arlington, we have so many resources in terms of being a compassionate community, in terms of a highly educated community, and people want to help and address our challenges. I like to think of it that if any community can address hunger, Arlington can. And so we've seen a significant increase in the number of households that are food insecure, as defined by Feeding America and the national leaders in this area. And it jumped 23% at AFAC to more than 3,500 households. We had hunger in Arlington before this, but this task force is going to try and work in a systemic way on the supports that we have churches and nonprofits that have been providing hunger relief for over a year, and PTAs, and we really need to find how can we be systemic in addressing food insecurity and hunger. And so that's a step that we're going to take over the coming days in setting up a task force on this. It will be time limited, 12 to 18 months. And this is other localities also have entities that work on food and hunger response. But we need to engage in a more systemic way on this issue. And over the course of those 12 to 18 months, we have a group of about 25 that's going to work together to develop a plan to end hunger in Arlington. And that will be hard, but we ended veterans homelessness, and this is a challenge that we need to take on. I can tell you, I'm really thrilled. This is a passion of mine, but really all of us on the board care deeply about this. And I wanted to, Libby, I know you're involved in a couple of different ways, and wanted to send it over to you. I'm really pleased this is a shared board priority.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's one really for the community. I think the pandemic has made it so clear that there are people who are food insecure, even here. And I'm really pleased about this task force that's getting set up, and it's going to be headed up by our new food security coordinator, Stephanie Hopkins. And that's something that a lot of localities have had, is kind of a more an organized set person office that's kind of handling hunger. And now we've got that too, which I think is really going to be a good thing. With the Council of Governments, I've been working several years ago. We started a group called Farm, and that's actually just looking at agriculture in the region and supplying our own food needs, which I got into originally because I realized with climate change, and as I say, most of our fruits and vegetables come from Florida, which is, eventually going underwater, most likely, much of it, and California, which seems to catch on fire very frequently. And that, with both of those two states, really so threatened by climate change, it's pretty clear to me that, and has been for a long time, that we're going to need to do more here locally. And there are a lot of efforts. And then the pandemic hit, and all the supply chains started to get disrupted. There are some real challenges when your food is coming from 1,000 or 2,000 miles away. So I think we're becoming more resilient as a region that way, and I'm very pleased that that's the case. I think, Matt, I was just listening to, as you're listing, it's amazing. You've got the PTAs, right, and the nonprofits and the churches and all of these groups. It just shows how very unorganized we are as a nation with our safety net for food. And I'm hoping that one of the good things to come out of the pandemic is realizing that, during the pandemic, we realized people needed to eat and we needed to feed them. And moving forward, that we don't, like, suddenly now the pandemic's over, we don't worry about people eating anymore. One of the Council of Governments organizations I'm on, we were talking about sending a letter to the Congress, because encouraging them to keep feeding children, in schools. And this business about schools where you've got hungry children when they haven't paid their lunch fee and they don't get fed is just, so I said, what's to question about feeding hungry children? If a child's hungry, feed the child. And I think we're moving to that. It's such common sense, and it seems to have taken a pandemic to kind of hit us over the head as a nation, that is common sense, and let's just do it. I'm hoping that will stick. So, and and again, recognize, Matt, you've been talking about this for a long time. So the pandemic really revealed what an issue it is.
Yeah, and one partner that we have in this effort is Arlington Public Schools, and that's another that we haven't mentioned, but we're working together, and we're going to develop a plan for addressing this sustainability to do so. And this is an important time to recognize just what you said, Libby, that we need an organized, more systemic effort on even in Arlington with our strong safety net. We still need a more organized way to approach this. So we're both thrilled, and the whole board. So.
And of course, we do have quite a few other topics of decisions made by the board at its April meeting. We're going to talk housing, the arts, and more when we come right back.